You're listening to Improving Business, and today we'll be talking about the hop-on, hop-off shuttle in Stockholm, Sweden, and the Six Sigma business theory, part 2. This is Brandon.
And this is Rick. Hello.
How you doing today?
Great. Thanks for joining us today on your busy day in the car, if you're there, or maybe you're exercising, running down the street, listening to our podcast. Thanks for taking the time.
If you were listening to us last week, you knew we were talking about Six Sigma, the way of business thinking that involves black belts.
Well, I know they came up with this program of black belts and white belts, and then I was reading in the book that there's now yellow belts, and some of the traditional Six Sigma people are pretty upset with there being yellow belts.
Oh, no. Well, I was really upset that I was only a yellow belt when I was doing martial arts and not an orange belt.
Really? You didn't make it to a green belt?
I don't know. Maybe I did.
Yeah.
You may be thinking of Devin because he kept with it a lot longer than I did.
Well, he's a black belt, yeah.
He's a fighter.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well, remember we
lover?
learned, because we were taking Jeet Kune Do, which was Bruce Lee style, is that he
among
said,
other things.
Yeah, he said that belts are only good for keeping the pants up, and that we didn't have an Italian accent.
Yeah, that was a little bit of an Italian accent.
But also, the way the belts worked, from what I remember, is that they were all white, and then over time they would get dirty and turn black. And so as you studied longer and longer and longer, it automatically turned black because of all the experience you got.
Because everyone studies martial arts in a coal factory. Little known fact. A factory that makes coal.
Right. That's right. If you jump inside those little carts, you're cheating.
Yeah, you're cheating. You're not allowed. So following up on last week, we'll be talking today about using the experience of the hop-on, hop-off experience in Stockholm, which is a bus that you
what
hop
an
on
experience.
and hop off in Stockholm, Sweden, in light of the Six Sigma organizational quality system made famous by General Electric's Jack Welch. And this system helped companies run better while focusing on the customer. That's a big point for Six Sigma, is focusing on the customer.
Right. And a lot of other theories that we've talked about over the last 6 months, 8 months.
It's almost as if customers are a big deal when you're trying to sell things to customers.
Well, we learned last week when we were looking at Six Sigma in our Russian tour guide, customers were not a big deal.
Not as much of a capitalist country over there, so even still. We'll be talking again about the Six Sigma way, how GE, Motorola, and the other top companies are honing their performance by Panda, Newman, and Kavanaugh. That's their book. And this will be the second of the 3 series that we're doing on Six Sigma. Last week was the Sigma Roadmap, where we talked about sort of setting up changes. This week is the Six Sigma implementation, implementing those changes. And the last is the cultural challenges of Six Sigma, which is, I guess where we disagree with them.
Yeah. This is kind of a trilogy, right?
Yeah, this is.
So we need like a Gandalf person.
Yeah, or a Darth Vader person.
But he had more. It's 6 films.
Well, no one counts the new ones. Those have been erased, and now we're going back to restarting with Disney, just starting afterwards.
But before we get into our theory today, we're going to be talking about 2 things that have been going on in our lives. And if you've been following our podcast, we had given some advice on how to buy a house and how to buy or lease a car. And if you missed those, go back a few episodes. I don't know how many, 3 or 4 episodes
Something
ago.
like that.
And you can listen to those things and pick up some tips. But at the same time, Brandon, Devin, my wife Judy, and me were going in together to buy a house in Pasadena. And we had given a whole history of what we were doing through Echo Park and Highland Park and South Pasadena and Glendale, and we actually found a great place in Pasadena and a great section, and we're in escrow right now.
Yeah. So it's not just business theory, it's business and practice.
That's right. Business and practice. That's right. So we have this house in Pasadena, and check this. It is 105 years old. I feel so much better now.
Yeah, about your age.
That's right.
Not about the structure of the house.
When you're the only person walking around with white hair in the family, you feel much better when there's something older than you.
Well, to be fair, I have I'm getting the silverback look. Well, not on my back. Actually, I don't know. I haven't checked my back hair.
Turning into an ape?
Yeah, I'm turning into an ape.
Oh, okay. So anyway, this house in Pasadena, as we always told you guys, find a good team. We had a good team. A good team for realtor, which is our cousin Denise, and we had a bank that we're working with, somebody in the bank. We also got an inspector, and we found a bunch of things. And Brandon, why don't you talk about what you found at the city of Pasadena that surprised us?
I went to building and safety and, went to ask some questions because it's my first house purchase, and, there's a lot of things. 105-year-old house, you want to make sure to see if it's, historical protected, because a lot of that can require some different things from homeowners on what paint they can throw on the front and if they can make any changes. I found out it wasn't historically protected, so basically we could do whatever we want. Throw a cannon on top. I don't know. Some sails.
Was this Mary Poppins?
I'm turning
Mary
it
Poppins?
Exactly. I want to be the guy from Mary Poppins, their neighbor. But we also found out that they needed a garage. There was no garage on the premises, and the woman that I talked to at Safety and Planning said it's a requirement in Pasadena to have covered parking.
So it doesn't have to be a garage,
it
just
doesn't,
covered parking.
Just
Carport.
Carport, exactly.
Yeah.
So we have to talk to, after the city inspection goes through, with the people we're buying a house with, because legally speaking, in Pasadena, you can't sell if you don't have covered parking.
Yeah, unless there's some sort of exception. And the other thing that we had learned about was the our seller had did some foundation work, some great foundation work, but it wasn't inspected, and so we wanted the city to check it out. Now, what's very interesting about Pasadena, and maybe it's like this in other parts of the country, but it's definitely not like this in any other part of Southern California, is that the city of Pasadena requires an inspection by the city before somebody can sell a house. And that is so bizarre because you never have inspections by cities unless you're building or remodeling. And so
it's called a livability survey or something.
Oh, no, you have to get a certificate of occupancy.
There it is, yeah.
Yeah. And see, that's usually what you do when you're building a house, is that the city has to come in and say, okay, this is safe to occupy. And so
that makes sense because it's a 105-year-old house,
That's right, that's right.
A lot of stuff could have gone. There's not even actually plans because it's so old.
Right.
They probably burnt down in the Pasadena fire of
So
1905.
1901.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, the point of this is that we had told you in a prior podcast to get a good team, and we have a good team. And we were able to use that team and use the city and learn a lot about the property in order to protect ourselves. And that's the number one thing as a buyer that you want to do, is protect yourself and use experts around you to do it. And you can find out more about that on the other podcast we talked about buying a house. The other thing we're going to give you a little update on is Judy and I were going to buy a car. Now, I've been driving a Toyota Highlander, which has about 200,000 miles on it.
Hybrid.
That's right, hybrid. And virtually nothing's gone wrong with it. I think I had a little trouble with something in the heater that they welded, and that was it.
Yeah, Toyotas are good cars.
But it was going to be falling apart. You could hear some noises.